contemplating as you plan your wedding here in Omaha is having an outdoor reception. A lot of brides dream of the sunshine, the fresh air, the flowers, the fall leaves, whatever season it is that you're contemplating. So if you're considering that, let's talk about a few things that you might need to consider. The first, obviously, is the weather. You might not want to do this in July when it tends to be really hot, or February when it tends to be really cold. So you might plan a spring or fall wedding with an outdoor theme. You need to provide a tent. If it does rain, your guests will be sheltered. You can rent large social event tents from a number of rental companies, event companies. You'll want to be sure that your tent is large enough for the number of guests that you're having, and be sure that they bring it out and set it up, preferably the day before, just to be sure everything's okay, or the morning of your wedding. This is not something you'd really want to undertake yourself. I've seen one of these assembled and it's a lot of work and it takes a lot of strength. Be sure the tent is big enough, not only for all of your guests to be seated at tables, but for the dance floor as well. Now, one bride recently had a great idea. The head table was set up on the dance floor, as was the caterer's buffet. After dinner, they disassembled the buffet, they moved the head table to the very edge of the dance floor, and they had a dance floor right there, without the need for any additional space in the tent. Also, be sure you have a table set up for gifts inside the tent. You wouldn't want the stuff that people bring you in beautiful wrapping to get rained on. That wouldn't be nearly as much fun to open the next day, would it? You want to have a plan B. Even with a tent, if it's pouring rain, you're going to want to get your guests inside. So for example, if you're having your reception at a golf course, you might want to be sure that maybe you could use their clubhouse if you need to. Lawrence and Gardens is another great place to plan an outdoor reception or wedding, or both, because they have a great plan B, a beautiful glass atrium full of plants where you can easily move your guests to have the wedding or reception if it is raining. Another thing none of us really want to think about, but it's important, your guests will need access to restrooms. I attended an outdoor reception a few weeks ago, and they had rented portable porta potties. I don't know a better word for that. They were the cleanest, nicest porta potties I've ever been in, even running water to wash your hands. So you want to be sure that you've rented some of those so that your guests have easy access to restrooms, and you're going to want to be sure you rent from a company that will provide nice ones. You're going to need to watch out for wind. If you're in a location that's likely to be windy, when you plan your table decorations, be sure you plan for something to hold them on the tables that is not something that's easily knocked over. Wind can really kick up here in Nebraska, especially in the summertime. Another thing to consider is if you're having a buffet from your caterer, if they're going to be using sterno with an open flame, that you not have any loose decorations on the table where the food will be set out, because the last thing you want to do is start a fire. That would be bad. Be sure that your DJ has the right equipment to do an outdoor performance. They're going to need electricity, and they're going to need a way to transport their equipment from the parking area to where your reception is. That's heavy equipment, and it can be really difficult for a DJ to move that equipment several blocks in an outdoor situation. So be sure there's a path or somewhere that he could drive his van to drop off his equipment. Same with the caterers. They need a way to drive the food into your location. It's, again, not something that would be easily carried one piece at a time into your reception area. Be sure you consider how your guests are going to get from the parking area to where your wedding's actually being held. If it's a half-mile walk out onto the golf course, you need to consider that older people or people with disabilities might have trouble walking that far across a grassy area especially, and be sure you have some golf courts or other forms of transportation available to get them from the parking area to the location of your wedding. And most of all, don't worry about it too much. If it's gonna rain, it's going to rain. Worrying about it's not going to change that fact. If you get up that morning and it's raining, don't let it ruin your day. I did a wedding 2 weeks ago where we woke up on Saturday morning and it was pouring. And it poured and poured and poured right up till about 2 o'clock when the wedding was on an indoor at a church. But by the time the bride and groom came out to leave for the reception, which was out of doors, the sun was shining, the sky was blue, and everything was fine. But the bride worrying about it all morning wasn't going to help whether or not it was raining later. So regardless of what happens, just relax and enjoy your wedding day, knowing that you have a plan B in your pocket.